Fairly recently, I released my first ever real brick film, CT-1313. In this video, we're going to be going over some of the behind the scenes, some of the techniques I used, and just everything that went into making this. Timestamps are on screen right now, so you can skip around and find the parts that you're interested in, because this video is probably going to be quite long. So we're going to start it off with the ideas and inspiration. Now the first thing is, why 1313? Now 13 is obviously seen as the unlucky number by many, but however I find it is my lucky number for some reason. So that's just the reason why. There's quite a few things in my life which seem to be 13, so I decided just to go with that. Inspiration for the actual thing came from the Bad Batch, which hadn't actually released at the time, but we kind of knew what it was, so I already wanted to do something like that with kind of clones in the Empire time, not really with anybody and kind of against the Empire. Now the reason I actually wanted to do anything in the first place was mainly due to a few animators. BrotherHoodWorkshop, Forest Fire 101, and a while ago Fancy Pants, who hasn't done anything for a while but is still amazing, are the main people that inspired me. But for a long time I've been watching other people like Flapjack Films, just to name one of them. There are so many great animators, and I think that's really the reason why I decided to do this, just because I wanted to give it a try and see if I could do something at least similar to what they've been doing for a long time. Obviously, the animation is the most important part of the brick film, because what's a brick film without the actual stop motion? Now the animating took part over about 3 months, I believe. I can't entirely remember because lots of it was kind of editing while doing the animating, but I'd say about 3 months to do all of the animating, which I think is quite good. At the time, lockdown had just started here in England, so I was doing homeschooling, but that meant at lunchtimes and things I could also go and do things. I didn't have to spend time on the bus. That meant I had like maybe 4 extra hours every single day where I could work on this, so that was a massive help. Probably would still be being made if I did not have that, so that was quite good, I guess. Now this is obviously not the first time I've done stop motion with Lego. I've been doing it for years and years. It's just this is the first time where I really just did it straight, just solid for a long time, and did it all on one thing, and I think that's definitely better as the thing goes on. I definitely improved and learnt a lot as you go. There is definitely a few things where it's just shaky and things, and it's just not the best, and some lighting flickers and things. Now the shaking on 1313's arm, which I've noticed a lot while watching it back, is because the actual character I'm using, the minifigure I'm using, does have quite a loose arm, which is entirely my fault, and it was a pain to animate with because it meant I had to often use glue tack and things just to hold it in place, but that did kind of work out still, and it was still fine, I guess. But next time I'm going to make sure that the arm is not quite as movable. Now the sets in this brick film were really not too complicated at all. They were all using basically the same parts. I did have some pretty cool ways about getting around some of the things though. You can see here for this running corridor scene, I had the wall on the slider, so then I just animated 1313 moving his arm, just going up and down like he was running. And I also had Han Solo kind of walking past as well, and I was just making him just fly right past by moving him one stud every frame. And then the wall was just being moved a bit every frame, I believe like 2 studs a frame maybe, and I think that worked out really well. I think it was a really good solution to that. I didn't actually spend any money on making anything in this whole brick film, including the money for the set. I did not spend any money on the set. Luckily I've got quite a big Lego collection, so everything was being able to do without having to buy any extra parts or anything. Obviously it did mean it was not the most detailed or anything, but I think it all did come out quite well, and I think the sets don't really take away or anything. I think they just served their purpose, and they just worked well with the characters and what they were doing. The music was something which I never really knew how to go about doing. At first I thought I was just going to download all the music from the internet, but then I decided I wanted to try and do it myself. So I went onto a website called BandLab. It's a free website with lots of different audio tracks and things which you can just drag and drop in. It's free, it's easy to use. I'd suggest using it if you want to try out something like that. It worked really well, and I composed 4 different pieces. However, I only used 2 of them in the actual thing and 1 of them for the outro credits. I then also downloaded one other piece of music from the internet, which is called Lazarski's Dream, and I found that because a few other people have used it in their brick films as background music, and I think it worked really well. You can hear it in the background of this video right now, and I think it just worked perfectly. And then at the start of the brick film in the cantina, there was obviously the cantina music by John Williams, which was the obvious choice to go for with that because that's what's playing in the cantina in everything in Star Wars. Now, the editing was a massive part of making this thing a reality. It took a ridiculous amount of time, but was probably the easiest part for me as I've loved editing videos for a long time. I don't know why most people really don't like editing videos, but I love editing videos and I spent lots of time practicing it, so this was probably one of the most fun parts for me. Now you can see here just how many different things can go into a different scene. The way I decided to do this whole thing was I used Filmora to edit it all firstly, and I've used that for quite a while now, and it's definitely what I think is probably the best editing software. Adobe After Effects is something else which I know people use, but I really think Filmora just works for me. Then I made each of these scenes in a separate project and saved them all, so then the final one would not be just a massive project with just hundreds and hundreds of different files. It was made a lot more manageable and a lot easier to kind of find different files and things to put them together. You can see here just how many sound effects and things went in at the bottom. For every sound effect there's probably like 2 or 3 different versions of the sound effect, so that it has kind of like a layering. I learned that from Forest Fire 101, by the way. He's really good at doing things with the sound effects as well. For the Blaster Fire, I've actually done a tutorial on that. I just filmed Lego pieces in front of green screens, then got rid of the green screens and things. So then I've got Blaster Fire going across the screen with nothing holding it up or anything. Also saved me a lot of time in the animating process, meaning I didn't have to do it while I was animating. Also made it a lot easier. This scene here where we have the speeder, and it's kind of like a third person POV of 13 on the speeder. I actually filmed this in 2 separate things. The speeder was shot in live action, and I just had that so it was moving around and things, and then I just changed it a bit up and like made different speeds and things, and that was done in front of a green screen. Then I got rid of the green screen and put it over this other thing which I filmed in stop motion, where it was just a camera sitting still, and then I had the set made out of quite a few different panels. Then I just had it made the set come towards the camera so it looked like the speeder bike would be kind of zooming through the set, when in reality it was just the speeder bike being moved around in front of a piece of green card, and then also the set just moving towards the camera. Now the voices were probably for me the hardest part about this whole brick film. I don't really know any people in the LEGO space, so I couldn't really turn to anyone like that to help me out with this, so it was a struggle to get this to work. For 1313, I decided to voice him myself as I want to do a few other things with him in the future, which means it'll just be easier because then I can just obviously have the same person voicing him, because I'm always going to be here because I'm the person making it, obviously. The other voices were voiced by family members, which worked quite well, and then I also downloaded quite a few Stormtrooper voices and things from Disney's audio library. However, there was one scene where there was not the right audio which I could get from Disney's audio library, so I turned to trying to get someone experienced to do it. So I went onto Instagram and I direct messaged BrotherHoodWorkshop. And within a few days he responded, and I sent him a script and he recorded a voiceover for me, which is just absolutely amazing. Huge thanks to him. He sent me through 3 different versions of the voice I could choose. It was just really helpful. Just a massive thanks to him. This would have not been the same without it. The voice, by the way, that he actually did was the voice in the scene you can see on screen now, where it's the roof fight scene where you have the troopers saying you have 5 seconds to comply. That scene, and then they all get beaten up and then they break 13's helmet. So that is it for the most part. There is just a few other things I'd like to say. The equipment that I used to film this whole thing and edit this whole thing is I was using my iPod Touch, which isn't ideal for a camera, but it did work and I think the quality looks pretty good. Then the filming space was a really small space. It was literally just a small box, and then I had a green piece of card behind, or maybe a blue piece of card depending on what I wanted. And then I also edited it all on my laptop, and then I used Filmora 10 to edit it. I think it does really show though that you don't need anything too fancy. It was literally a $2 app on my iPod, and then I just exported all that to my laptop with a quite expensive editing software, but still one of the cheaper ones. So you really don't need an expensive camera, you don't need a massive space, you don't need heaps to do something like this. So I'd just say give it a go, and you never know what will happen. Now this is not going to be a standalone brick film. I'm actually working already on one called Squad 666, which is kind of a prequel to this, I guess. It's of 13 in the Clone Wars with his squad, and it's how he got separated from his squad and why he's kind of alone, I guess, in this brick film. And then I've also started writing a script and even started a bit of the filming for a sequel to this 1313 brick film, and at the moment it's set to be at least 15 minutes long. So if I can manage to pull that off, that would be amazing. However, I doubt I'll make it that long. I'll probably cut it down severely, but you never know, I might make a really long brick film, and that would be really fun to do, I think. Start to finish, this took 5 months exactly from the first idea to the final release date. I think the animation took about 3 months, and the editing took me about 2 months, or maybe actually 1.5, because it was uploaded on YouTube on private for a few weeks before it was actually released, because I obviously wanted to release it on May the 13th, that is 1313. I'm really happy with how it all turned out. There are a few things I'd like to change, but I think that's just because I had not done as much animation as I had by the end, as it took so many hundreds of hours to do this. It genuinely did. And I think you can even see though, as the whole thing progresses, you can see at the start the animation is pretty good, but by the end it definitely gets a lot better and a lot more dramatic. And yeah, really think I improved a lot, and I'm really hopeful for what will come in the future, and I'm really excited to bring more. So without further ado, thank you for watching all the way through to the end. I hope you enjoyed the brick film and this behind the scenes, and goodbye.